Canoes were the main mode of transportation for the Comox people. These massive boats were made from a single cedar tree, which was hollowed out using stone adzes and controlled fire. Early Europeans marveled at the skill used to build these seaworthy vessels and the number of canoes at each village. In 1792, when Captain Vancouver anchored in front of a Quadra Island village, he recorded in his logbook that 18 canoes came out to meet his ship and 70 more remained on shore. The style of the canoes differed depending on what it would be used for, such as ocean travel, freight, or river use. Ocean canoes had a high, long prow which cut through the waves. They had high sides which were carved out to be slightly flared in order to increase buoyancy and speed. Freight canoes were much the same as the ocean canoe, but deeper so that there was a larger carrying capacity. River canoes were built much smaller, so they could navigate through shallows and rocky sections of the river. Poles, rather than paddles, were used to steer river canoes. Comox people used their canoes to travel to different communities for potlatches and other celebrations. Families would move to different campsites throughout the year, accessing the different resources as they became available. When the Comox moved to Denman Island in the springtime to gather and preserve their winter supply of food and other resources, they would remove the large planks that covered the big houses and lay them across 2 canoes. The deck space from those planks over the canoes was then loaded up with all of their household supplies, family members, and pets, and ferried over to Denman Island. Captain Richards of the HMS Plumper was anchored off of Henry Bay for several days in April of 1860. When his ship first arrived on the 13th, the place was deserted, and by the following day, about 40 people arrived specifically to dig clams. By the 16th, about 80 people had descended upon the place, bringing with them house planks, cedar bark mats, and cooking vessels. By April 19th, Captain Richards recorded that the village has increased wonderfully. A week since, not a man here, now nearly 300 people, with 61 considerably large canoes, and the point covered with their houses. Canoes are still a large part of the Comox culture today. Members of the community participate in canoe journeys, paddling the Ihos, which was built by Comox members and their relatives from Fort Rupert. Ihos is the name given to a 40-foot traditional Kwakwawak-style red cedar canoe carved from a 400-year-old cedar log donated by Macmillan Blodell. The canoe log was first blessed by Mary Clifton, a respected elder in the community. Calvin Hunt and Mervyn Child from Fort Rupert were commissioned to carve the canoe. Ihos is modeled after a previous canoe, Macloagwa, which was carved in 1993. Macloagwa was the first canoe to be carved at Comox in over 80 years and heralded a rediscovery of the band's heritage. Paddling in the canoe gives an immediate feeling of being part of a team, as everyone works in unison. It also gives everyone an appreciation for how much more difficult it was to get around the area when canoes were the only form of transportation. The finished canoe, complete with Ihos, the 2-headed serpent painted on her side, was launched July 21, 1994. The launching was followed by a traditional dance performance. The canoe joined the Commonwealth First Nations tribal journeys, leaving Fort Rupert on the northern end of Vancouver Island on August 4, 1994, to arrive in the Victoria Inner Harbour on August 18th for the opening of the Commonwealth Games.